This girl thought that she was very safe. Unexpectedly, the bridge under her feet wanted to collapse immediately. The captain did not dare to shock her. Instructed her to fasten the safety rope. But someone cannot control herself shout out. Corinne had been panicked, start running hurriedly. This was exactly what Fred worried about. Wiggled strongly, made the cable rotate accordingly. The bridge gradually sagged, Corinne desperately ran. But the force of the earth couldn't be moved.
No! Wait!
Their group was frightened madly, shouting loudly to Corinne to move over. But Corinne's arm force was not enough. Which couldn't do it. It was at this moment that the wooden plank also fell. Corinne was just hanging off the cable like that, only rely on grabbing a safety rope. The danger had not finished yet. The cable was under high pressure, had nearly broken. Fred hurriedly threw the rope at Corinne. Everyone had just pulled Corinne up. Heard the sound of broken cable, it was like running a race against the Reaper. At the last moment, Corinne had finally been pulled back. Successfully out of danger, everyone was so scared that the face had been white. Someone began to blame Fred. There was a clear no travel signboard at the foot of the mountain, he insisted on leading everyone up. Now that was good, there had been no way back. There was only 90-degree cliff ahead. They had to climb over it before sunset, could down a mountain to return home. Argued uselessly. 5 people began to climb the mountain. Although they had ladder and a safety cable, they were still nervous. Because it was a several hundred meters ravine below. Each step on the boundary between life and death. From a distance, they were like worms crawling on giant objects, small helpless. When 5 people prepared to cross a cliff, the front cable had been broken. In the situation which had no safety protection, they did not dare to move forward. At this time, Fred and Corinne had experience in climbing mountain. Decided to climb in bare hands, then drop the rope down, let the others climb up. After 2 people left, Loic's feeling about the fear of heights had collapsed. Loic was trembling. At this time, he was hanging off a cliff. The only protective equipment was a safety rope. But no longer, the safety rope failed to hold. Guillaume beside him hurriedly went down to pull him, lead to chain reaction. The 2 of them were just hanging off like that. Life and death, all lying on a rope that could break at any moment. Loic scared and shouted out, 2 legs did not stop kicking. Guillaume advised him not to move around. That would die faster, but he didn't listen. Life of 2 people was like 1,000 pounds hanging hair. Chloe saw this scene which was helpless to save, could only cry painfully. On the other side, Fred and Corinne, just climbed up to the top of the mountain, was preparing to drop the rope down. But carelessly, Fred had stepped on an animal trap. Corinne stepped forward to help, join forces to separate the animal trap. The result was not only unsuccessful, but also it shot back to him. Fred was about to pass out in pain. He told Corinne quickly release the rope, let them come to help. At this time, the 2 people were hanging off the air hadn't suffered anymore. Corinne hurriedly dropped the rope down. At the last moment, the 2 people climbed along the rope, she also is out of danger. Soon, they reached the top of the mountain. After a little rest, Corinne led them to find Fred. But when arriving, Fred was missing again. The scene only left blood-stained animal trap. What had happened to him? In this deep mountain forest, would there be many beasts going back and forth? 4 people fell into fear. Loic nosily wanted to come back, didn't care about Fred's life and death. Corinne scolded him for not having gratitude. 2 people quarreled repeatedly, until they were told to stop by Chloe. She said, we couldn't leave Fred. She went after finishing speaking. Loic could only follow bitterly. 4 people started looking for Fred. Went for a while, Loic was upset again. An incompatible word had fought with Guillaume. Chloe wanted to advise. Unexpectedly, pounding a shot, could not see her anymore. The 3 people hurriedly surrounded. How deep this cave was in the end. They shouted out, but it also did not echo. It seemed not good. Corinne decided to come down and took a look. Crawling a half, she had found out there were sharp wood thorns underneath. It seemed like hunting traps. At the bottom of the cave, she had finally found Chloe. Her arm was stabbed by a wooden thorn, pain to the teeth grinding. She asked Corinne to help her draw it out. Corinne had only made up her mind to follow. After she had finished dressing Chloe, 4 people continued to find Fred who was missing. Very quickly, it was dark. To avoid getting lost, 4 people led the same rope went ahead. But suddenly, an arrow hit Corinne in the end. Until 3 people found out they wanted to save her, it had been late. Corinne didn't know something had come to drag her off. The 3 people could not catch up with, just gave up temporarily, come back to the old road. On the way, they found out a small house, originally intended to take a rest. Unexpected, had found out Fred who was missing. They were in pain. Covered clothes on Fred, kept the final dignity for him. After that, to clarify the truth, they searched all over the room. In the basement, Guillaume saw a horrible sight. Here everywhere hung full of animal skins, animal bones. There was even a human head. It turned out that they could meet a freaking murderer. Can still run now? Unluckily, when they went to the door, just in time faced with the murderer. The murderer rushed towards Loic like a beast. They fought a battle. Loic was so weak that he fell into the disadvantaged situation. Saw he nearly couldn't resist anymore. He picked up a rock, threw over the murderer. After that he turned his back to run away, led the murderer successfully. Chloe and Guillaume had taken the opportunity to escape from the house. Also at this time, the killer enjoyed a hunting game. He picked up the bow, immediately targeted Loic. First nose, not hit. Nose 2, right hit the thigh. Loic shouted out painfully. The murderer chased after him. The 2 people started to fight. But the killer did not expect Loic had been pressed. He could also be aggressive. He put all his strength to pull out the arrow on his leg, crashed into the killer. Then held the stone, strongly pounded over. But the murderer's life was really strong. Not only did not die, but also continued to chase. Loic hurriedly climbed down the ladder. Unexpectedly, it had not been repaired for a long time. also was separated. Loic was hanging off like that, was also frightened of losing Soul. The murderer saw, satisfied left. Fortunately, Chloe and Guillaume came at the right time. Guillaume raised his hand to pull Loic up. Saw that they can save him. But at that moment, the demon inside Guillaume had been awakened. He and Loic both liked Chloe. If Loic died, would he no longer have a rivalry? So that Guillaume's gaze gradually turned ferocious. Loic escaped from the murderer's pursuit. Could avoid the heart of evil people. On this side, Guillaume stood up and embraced Chloe, who had been depressed. He contentedly hugged a beautiful person in his heart. But retribution came even faster than imagined. The killer shot him in the head once, lost life on the spot. Chloe was completely outraged. When being forced to the end, she was originally weak, sparked an incredible courage. She screamed and rushed towards the murderer, stabbed him with a knife. But Chloe was basically weak, being overpowered by the murderer. Chloe saw the right moment, attacked his critical weakness. Then she stabbed in the throat. Finally she ended the murderer's life. After that, Chloe slid along the cable car. Ran out of this dead place. She opened her mouth widely and breathed in the air. It seemed to be alive again. At the end of the movie, the lens stopped at the picture of 5 people. If they hadn't entered the restricted area at the first time, all these things would not have happened.